I moved to Florida at 70, which is a bit old to start, but Oxford wouldn't employ me after 70. They have a very... Oxford and Cambridge have stood out from all other universities in this country by not employing people after the retirement age. Other universities will. Oxford won't. Even if you raise your own money, they won't. So I looked for a job in America, and I was reduced to writing round to my friends saying, can you give me a job? And at 70, that's a difficult thing to do. But fortunately, I found this amazing... Well, I had a number of offers, one of which was a sort of secret job with the NSA, which I didn't want. But I didn't want a secret job. I'm not an American citizen anyway. Although they said that wouldn't be a problem. But I found this job with the Florida Institute, which is in fact the best institute in America for robotics. Not what I do, but that's how they get lots and lots of money into Florida for robotics. And it's run by a man called Ken Ford, who's a most remarkable man. He's one of the characters late in life I've discovered, younger than me of course, who's a remarkable, influential man. He was the chair of the NASA board and spends a day a week in Washington. He's managed to survive all the presidents still in this senior position of scientific advice, or not that Trump listens to scientific advice, but Ken is an amazing man. And Ken has founded this institute in Florida, which has managed to attract some of the best artificial intelligence talent. I mean, Pat Hayes, who's possibly the most interesting older person in British AI, works there, and so on. And it's in a boring part of Florida. Florida's a boring place, and it's in a boring part of Florida, but that doesn't matter. At a certain point, she doesn't care how boring things are. And Ken bought the public library, put $1 million into the public library and made it into a beautiful place with, put little sort of Tuscan huts into this space in this great open public library, and every office has its own air conditioning. And he offered me the job here in the Reform Club where we're sitting. We had lunch here and he offered me this job. And I was so pleased to be offered a job at 70, I took it. And I never regretted it. And his main group is in Pensacola, which is in the Florida Panhandle over towards Alabama. But he thinks that's far too far out from the center of things. So he wanted another group in the center of Florida, near the universities, near the government. So I was hired to go into this new institute, branch institute, should we say, a daughter house of the main house, and to help set up a new group. And we did, and we managed, amazingly, at this advanced age. I pulled all my strings with my old contacts in American funding and government, who I haven't seen for many years. But we got grants, we got a good lot of grants, and indeed what we moved into was, I reconstituted the work I referred to earlier on belief. Somebody in Navy research had read my papers on belief and liked them. So I managed to raise some substantial grants on models of belief in others and how individuals communicate. And this was lucky because your listeners may know that at the moment the trend in AI is entirely towards statistical work and deep learning. So the people who are still trapped in what you might call cognitive symbolic work, which is what I do. I've done statistical work, but nobody thinks I'm a statistician. So most of my work has been in cognitive symbolic AI, but there are still people who will support that, and there's people in the Navy and in DARPA who will still support. We'll come to this perhaps, but they don't completely trust deep learning and statistics yet. Looking at dialogues among groups of people and their models of each other and what they believe and how they influence each other and who is the leader and who is influencing the others and causing their beliefs to change. You can probably imagine why American defense might want to support that. And we did some work on that. We amazingly had a big grant on metaphor. Again, metaphor sounds like an artsy literary subject, but the American funders, who are much more open-minded than Europeans in some ways, have realized that since most language is metaphorical, and they want to understand language, how do they understand metaphor? Because especially in other languages, when they're trying to understand Farsi, they like Farsi, they're keen on Farsi, and languages like that, how do they understand people when they use metaphors? So they set up this enormous grant. This wasn't DARPA, this was IARPA, the intelligence part of ARPA. They set up this enormous program on understanding metaphor. And we got a good piece of that. That was fun, because I'd worked on metaphor all my life. I mean, I started life with metaphysics as metaphor, and I've kept up publications on metaphor. So we did some interesting work on that. So these were interesting things, and we hired some interesting people.